ACX Check Part 2, RMS. This week we're taking a detour from our series on macros in Audacity. We'll get back to macros in a future edition of Stuart's Audacity Tips. This is the second in a 4-part series on audiobook work or long-form narration of any kind. Share it with anyone you shared Part 1 with, or anyone else who may be interested in working in those areas. Don't be stingy. Last time we looked at the first metric measured by the ACX Check utility, peak level. This time we'll get into the second metric, RMS level. As a reminder, here's a typical output from ACX Check. The second metric is RMS level. This is one of the areas that lots of people find to be intimidating, confusing, or both. Hopefully we can take care of at least some of that intimidation and/or confusion. First, RMS isn't something exclusive to audio production. It's an acronym that stands for root mean square. I know, that was really informative, right? Exactly why everyone calls it RMS. Anyway, RMS is a calculation. It's a way of understanding the relationship between all the values in a set of data. Here's how it works. First, you square each value, in the case of audio, the amplitude value of each sample. Then, you find the arithmetic mean, or average, of the squared values. And third, you find the square root of the arithmetic mean. That's it. 3 steps: square, mean, square root. I know, it sounds like it should be SMR, not RMS, but I think of it as root of the mean of the squares. Not so bad after all. But why is it important? Basically, RMS is reasonably equivalent to standard deviation, a measure of how much a dataset varies. If the RMS is within a certain range, we can be reasonably certain that all the values in the dataset are acceptable. In terms of an audio waveform, the RMS of the amplitude values for each sample tells us whether the waveform has extreme variations in volume. For audiobooks, we don't want extreme variations in volume. So the goal of checking RMS is just to make sure our audio is comfortable for the listener. No extremes in terms of quiet and loud, and an overall comfortable listening level. You've probably already realized that, unlike peak level, RMS involves every sample in the waveform, not just the one that represents the highest amplitude. So, if the RMS number in ACX Check fails, how do we handle it? ACX requires the RMS value to fall between -18 dB and -23 dB. Remember, these are negative values, so that means no higher than -18 dB and no lower than -23 dB. If the RMS value is -17 dB, for example, then the audio is too loud and we need to reduce the average volume of the waveform. If the RMS value is -24, for example, then the audio is too quiet and we need to increase the average volume of the waveform. Here's a, hopefully, helpful graphic. The narrow green band is the acceptable range for RMS at ACX. Values between 0 and -18 or -23 and -72 or lower will fail. Actually, values between 0 and -17.99 will fail. Also, -23.01 and -72 or lower. The graphic shows Audacity set for -72 as the limit of the dB scale, but values can go less than that, like -80 for example. To adjust the volume of the waveform, select the whole thing and use the amplify effect with a dB value to increase or decrease the amplitude by the amount you need to get the RMS into the acceptable range. 0 is no change, and you can use decimal values. Watch the peak amplitude value to make sure the change won't cause the waveform to violate the -dB allowable peak limit. For example, -2.99 to 0. In that case, more subtle techniques need to be employed, which we'll look at in a future installment. Also keep in mind that when you change the amplitude of the waveform, the noise floor measurement will change by the same amount. If you're adding amplitude, you could cause a noise floor issue. Anyway, make the adjustment, then run ACX Check again and see what it says. If all the metrics pass, you're good to go. If not, there may be more focused solutions you can try. Stay tuned to this series for that. Hope this helps. I'm Stuart.